And welcome back to Let's Play Persona 3, starting again in FES, and also, once again, finding ourselves in Tartarus. Now, keep in mind that in Persona 3 Portable and Persona 3 Reload, at this point in the game, Sunday 4/26, we have already cleared all of Tartarus, and pretty much all of the Tartarus that we're going to be doing for the month, at least as far as Reload is concerned. We will be visiting Tartarus once again in Portable for mostly unrelated reasons, but in FES, we can't reliably do Tartarus in a single night due to the fatigue system, so we have to pace ourselves a little bit, which honestly, I actually think works out in the game's favor in some ways, but that's neither here nor there. Now, for this video, we're mostly going to be seeing Tartarus in Persona 3 Portable, since we didn't get to see much of that last time that we visited Tartarus. Before we get into it in all versions of the game, though, I want to stop by the Velvet Room in FES specifically. Now, coming up on the boss that we plan on fighting this evening, we're going to need something with a strike-based skill, which the only option we have for that is the bash skill at this moment. Orpheus already has that, but he's kind of weak. What if we had something that was stronger that had it? Well, as it so happens, we can fuse up a Chariot Aramitama. We'll also get a level up due to us having the social link established for him, so it's a good idea to fuse him tonight. He is weak to wind, which can be unfortunate, but his stats are much higher than Orpheus, not even counting the level up that he's about to get, and in particular he has much higher endurance and agility, making him a lot more survivable and a lot more accurate, so he'll be very helpful. He comes with Bash innately, has Rakukaja, Agi, and we'll learn Rakunda once we fuse him, so this will be a very good persona for us to have. Because of the way inheritance works in Persona 3 FES, he actually can't learn anything from the stuff that I'm fusing here. I think there's a small chance that he could get Dia from Pixie, but it's not too likely. I am Aramitama, the stalwart harbinger of thy victory. The swim team social link infuses Aramitama with power. If we can manage it, I'd like to keep Aramitama on most of the time, just so that we can keep getting him some experience as well, but it's not a big deal. If we get enough experience for him, we could learn Tsukukaja, which can come in handy every now and again. While we're going through Tartarus, I'll mostly be focusing on getting experience to level up both my teammates in Persona 3 FES and get one more level up for the protagonist, because all calculations regarding level scaling regarding the protagonist are tied to his level rather than his persona's level, so that's something to keep in mind, and any level that the protagonist gets, even if it doesn't increase the stats of his persona, it still increases the damage he does and reduces the damage he takes, so pretty good to keep in mind. With that underway, we'll be swapping over to Persona 3 Portable and making our way up Tartarus. We actually want to go to the teleporter here, because obviously floor jump does not exist in this version of the game. For this second trip through Tartarus, we'll be winding the clock back a little bit, because in Reload and Portable, we don't have to deal with the fatigue system in the same way that I did in Persona 3 FES. In this version of the game, the fatigue system still exists, but you do not get tired while exploring Tartarus. Tiredness does not kick in until after you leave it, with one exception. If a party member gets knocked out, and you do not revive them, and you leave the floor without reviving them, Mitsuru will rescue them from Tartarus, and they will be put in the tired status. This is the only way you can suffer tiredness within Tartarus. Otherwise, you'd only have the status if you entered Tartarus while suffering from it, so something to keep in mind there, but it's overall much less of a problem in Persona 3 Portable. But yeah, I knocked out all of the Tartarus exploration in Reload and Portable in a single night, so every time we're going to be checking out Tartarus this month, in those versions of the game, the clock will be winding back a little bit. This also gives me an opportunity to show off a unique mechanic, well, not unique mechanic, but new mechanic introduced in Portable and retained in Reload. If you walk up to the Tartarus gate, you actually have a floor jump mechanic in this version of the game, independent of the teleporter. This allows us to resume from the highest floor that we've reached. Naturally, this makes exploration in general and access points specifically much easier and much stronger, respectively, in Persona 3 Portable and Persona 3 Reload, because now you can just return to the Tartarus lobby with no progress lost, really. You can just jump back immediately. In Vanilla and FES, if you use an access point to return to the Tartarus lobby, you have to redo all the floors that you went through, which can be pretty annoying, since in FES and Portable, the floors are randomized each time you go through Tartarus within the same night. But that's neither here nor there. Let's continue our exploration of Thable in Persona 3 Portable. The next section of Thable is actually not really that much of an increase in difficulty over the previous section. Hold on. The shadows on this floor are a bit different than the ones you've faced thus far. Proceed with caution. Now, by pure happenstance, and I didn't really plan on going over it at that point, but earlier we did get an event floor in Persona 3 Portable. It's worth noting that event floors cannot happen your first time going through a floor if Mitsuru happens to have a comment while going through that floor. She will override the chance that an event floor will happen. Hey, new enemy here, Obsessed Cupid. These guys are weak to ice, so nothing too special here. Not even going to bother having Mitsuru scan it, because I've already got all the notes lined up for these guys. Let's see here. I would like experience, but I kind of need money at this point, so I'll go for that sword card. I've mentioned this previously, but the sword cards in Persona 3 Portable, they are the things you want to go for if you're going for money. Weapons in Persona 3 Portable sell for double to triple the value that they do in Persona 3 Vanilla and Persona 3 FES, so it is much more economical, or rather profitable, to go for those when doing shuffle time in Persona 3 Portable. Ooh, another enemy here. We saw Grave Beetle in Persona 3 FES briefly, but we were not able to engage with it because we did not have Garu spells at the time we fought it. This time we do, so what we can do is we can have Yukari knock it down, and then instead of going for the all-out attack, the much safer thing to do against enemies like the Grave Beetle, who are highly durable, is to actually use Garu once again to put it in the dizzy status. So we'll have her do this, we'll bypass the all-out attack since it wouldn't kill it, and we'll instead Garu it to make it dizzy. When its turns comes around, it will... Oh, never mind. Yukari's actually strong enough to just outright kill it with Garu here, and we were lucky enough to get a shuffle time there. Not guaranteed if you don't get an all-out attack, or the fight goes on for longer than one turn. In fact, the odds are quite bad in Persona 3 Portable, even worse in Persona 3 Reload. Get a whole bunch of level ups, well, couple level ups. Junpei gets the Repatra skill. This is a weird skill that kind of became an artifact once the game moved to Persona 4 mechanics. Repatra allows you to sacrifice Junpei's turn to bring someone out of the down status. Now, in Persona 3 Vanilla and FES, this spell could keep an important character from losing their turn. In particular, if your main character got knocked out, Junpei could... or knocked down, rather, not knocked out, because if you got knocked out, you get game over. Junpei could cast Repatra on them to cure the down status and prevent them from losing their turn, which can be pretty handy. Repatra is less useful in Persona 3 Portable because, obviously, you don't lose your turn from getting downed anymore. So it's been buffed slightly so that it also cures the dizzy status if you are stricken with it. If you get stricken with the dizzy status, though, you probably were doing something very wrong, so, that's something that hopefully will never be a situation where you'd want that spell for. And here are the magic hands in Reload. I don't know if you can actually run into these guys in the lower floors. I didn't see them until after I started fighting the other boss. Unlike, or the previous boss, the Ravens. Unlike the enemies we've seen thus far, these guys are pretty much identical to how they are in FES and Portable. Just weak to fire, that's it. They'll attack you with ice magic if you give them a chance to attack. Junpei and the protagonist are good at striking them down in short order. I'm sticking to a pixie that I skill carded in Persona 3 Portable, but it's not a terrible idea to get some experience for Orpheus to try and get him a level or two, if you can manage it. Ooh, because the level curve is different in Persona 3 Portable, we've actually got an interesting new thing here. We've got a Distressed Field Shadow. Distressed shadows on the field will actually run from you when you get close to them, because you are higher enough level than them that they are afraid of you. This means that it's easier to get preemptive strikes on them like this, and creates a very high probability that some of the enemies, or all of them, will be suffering from the distress status, which is basically like an ailment version of the tiredness status. It decreases the damage you deal while increasing the damage that you take, as well as making you more susceptible to critical hits. Very devastating status to get hit by, and very nice to see when the enemies are afflicted by it. Aside from the critical increase, I think the scaling on it is actually pretty much identical to the tiredness status. Naturally, if those things get stacked, you are in for a world of hurt if the enemy gets to attack you. Pixie getting another level up here, getting the Pulinpa status effect spell, which I don't really care about. She's also giving me the Dia skill card. Once a persona hits the requisite level, they will produce the skill card that they are stated to produce. Dia is not that important, but hey, I'll take it. We also got skill cards from Orpheus and Apsaras, which is what I used to get the skill onto Pixie. It's actually not a terrible idea that if you got the skill card from Apsaras, to release her and then get another one, because you can get another skill card from the new Apsaras that you collected once she hits level 4, I think it is. Actually, let me double check that, because I'm feeling like I got that wrong. Okay, yeah, it was level 4. Takes a little while to level her up, but with the higher EXP yield in Portable, it's not the most ridiculous request in the world. That was a pretty good item we got there, actually, a Megiddo gem. I might be using that soon, because that casts a fixed damage Almighty spell on the enemy party, and it's quite strong at this point in the game. Almighty is essentially the mechanics ignoring spell type. Nothing is resistant to Almighty spells, and nothing is weak to it either. It just deals the damage that it's gonna deal. I just realized I forgot to say what Pulinpa actually does. That attempts to inflict the enemy with the Panic status ailment. I've mentioned this in passing, but status ailments aren't that good in Persona 3, in any version, really. They have low success rate, and the effects are definitely more devastating against you than they are against the opponent. Pulinpa, in particular, attempts to inflict the Panic status, which works differently depending on which version of the game that you're playing. In FES, Vanilla, and Portable, it just prevents skill usage. So when you're afflicted by it, all that happens is you can't use your persona, and if the enemy is afflicted by it, they cannot use any skills that they have. Reload retools the ailment to do something different. It instead works like the confusion skill in Pokemon, although instead of just simply attacking yourself, it has a chance to make you do a number of annoying effects, such as dropping money, which can be pretty devastating. It also locks you out of the ability to participate in all-out attacks, which is something that's definitely a lot more frustrating to deal with in the early game, but it's not a big deal in the later game. Let's go for the cup card here, because we don't really have anything else. And randomly, it'll restore your HP or your party's HP for a fairly low percentage. I'm not exactly sure what the values are on cup cards, but it's not great restoration. Wait. There it is again. I detect a powerful foe above you. It's still relatively far away, but be careful as you work your way upward. Alright, we'll keep it in mind. The stairs are right here, but we do want to search for as much treasure as possible. At this point, those distress shadows probably aren't going to give me that good experience, so I don't really care too much to fight them right now. I'll stick to fighting my enemies when I need to actually grind some EXP out. This will allow me to just quickly grab all these chests here. One thing that, again, I was alluding to this earlier, is that it's not a terrible idea to equip Orpheus and try to get some experience for him, because he'll be our centerpiece for the upcoming boss fight in FES and Portable. You'll notice that my team is getting a little distant from me. If your teammates are too far away from you... Oh, whoops! That was a good thing they weren't too far. Ooh, that's ugly. Oof. That's a rough hit to deal with. I'm actually going to just use Dia on myself in case its turn comes up again. Again, it's pretty annoying that in the more modern versions of the Persona games, basically everything post-FES, the view turn order just shows you the order or the next enemy to act rather than the entire turn order. I actually vastly prefer how it worked in Vanilla and FES. With this guy dizzied, we can hit him with a cleave from Junpei and that should finish him off. Really unfortunate that I got surprised there. I was getting a little too full of myself with the enemies. But as I was saying, if your party members get too distant from you, they actually won't be able to participate in battle. And you'll know that is the case when their portraits turn or they black out. They'll be in silhouette. Entering floor 7, we get another quick tutorial message. You can press RB during an exploration to automatically recover HP. A party member's recovery skill will be used to instantly restore HP for all party members. Using a recovery skill to auto-recover HP will also cost SP, so if you run out of SP, you will not be able to auto-recover. Be sure to monitor your SP whenever you use it. If you just want a more streamlined means of using Yukari's healing magic, though I don't particularly ever care to use it. Alright, after that last encounter, I got another Arcana Burst. This one will allow me to get some Miragi gems, but the other thing that will really happen here that I care about is when we pick the Magician card, Arcana Burst will formally activate, upgrading every card we find going forward to level 2. When you've collected all the major Arcana cards that can appear in a day, Arcana Burst will occur and you can acquire a minor Arcana card of your choice. During Arcana Burst, the ranks of minor Arcana cards that appear will increase until you leave Tartarus for the day. The game finally telling us the important information. Try activating Arcana Burst as often as possible to collect stronger minor Arcana cards. Note that drawing the major Arcana cards is pretty random and has low odds on regular encounters, but there are encounters that we can get into that give a much better chance of these happening. Anyways, we now want to start picking these level 2 coin cards since we'll be getting considerably more money. These give about 1,000 more yen than the level 1 cards. The level 1 cards give a pretty pathetic amount of yen in Persona 3 Reload. And here's Junpei's splash screen if he gets the all-out attack activated.
Let's do the same thing for our next fight.
Hopping over to Reload, we've got a new persona here, Silky of the Lover's Arcana. Pretty cool to see the bunch of new personas added. There are tons of new personae added in Persona 3 Reload. The compendium is wildly different from the previous versions of the game. Here we have Obsessed Cupids, and these guys are just weak to ice. Unfortunately, I got a neutral strike against these guys, so the protagonist is not the first one up. In this case, we want Junpei to just fish for a critical hit, and hopefully he can allow us to pass our turn. He did not there, but Yukari dodged, and knowing my luck, yeah, it's the next Cupid that's up. Once again, we'll just fish for a critical hit there. Didn't get it, but Yukari's dodge is coming through quite nicely. Showing off the enemies here, I can show off a nice little feature in Persona 3 Reload. Oh, wait, never mind. Let's just switch in Apsaras and start blasting with Bufu. We'll go over that later. We have to actually hit these things with their weakness first. But yeah, take these guys down with ice, and then blast them with an all-out attack, and you are good to go. In general, I don't know if this is actually the case or anything. Are you alright? Don't push yourself too hard. The powerful enemy I mentioned before is getting closer. If you're not at full strength, then just return for the day. I don't know if it's just me, but I feel like in Persona 3 Portable, not only is the pathing AI a little bit worse than it is in FES, they have a tendency to get stuck more. They also have a tendency to get into my way a lot more than they do in Persona 3 FES and Vanilla, because they are interactable NPCs on the field, and they can block you. And this happens to me pretty often in Persona 3 Portable, and more than a couple times it'll result in me getting into an encounter that I did not want to get into, because it'll be as the result of an enemy advantage strike. This happens to me way more often in Persona 3 Portable than it does in Persona 3 FES, so I'm not sure if that's actually a thing, and if anybody else has experience with that, feel free to let me know. But yeah, definitely a much more annoying thing to have to deal with in Portable for me. There's a new Apsaras I could get if I had released the old one. In general, you don't want to release your personas too often, but it can be helpful, like in situations like this if we want to get another Bufu card. Getting very good money from the chests here. We want to finish tonight by having at least 50,000 yen in assets, and that can be between the actual money we have and the equipment we have to liquidate. And honestly, with the equipment that I've been getting up to this point, I might actually just be able to leave Tartarus once I'm done with all the bosses tonight in Portable, because we've been doing excellent on getting equipment to sell. And there is going to be a reason to return to Tartarus one night later in the future in Persona 3 Portable. It'll be a bit, but there is going to be one night where we're going to be returning to here for reasons. We'll go over that when it becomes relevant. Getting pretty bad luck on the shuffle times. Not too many weapon cards or coin cards or even wand cards, which I actually do kind of care to get at this point. What else was I gonna say? Alright, I actually did want to go over the reason you might want to take coin cards, though. And the most obvious reason you'd want to take coin cards is because that is money that you get directly within Tartarus. That doesn't matter too much right now, but later in the game, we will actually want to have access to money to use within Tartarus, because there will be things that we can buy while we're in Tartarus. Using the sword cards, we can only get equipment to sell, which obviously helps us not at all in Tartarus, because Elizabeth does not buy anything from us, but coin cards will give us money to use. Again, we'll see later what we can do with the money. You're getting very close to that powerful enemy I detected earlier. I believe it's on the next floor. Be careful. One thing to note is that the amount of floors in Fable is actually slightly different in Reload. In Reload, the boss will be on the 11th floor, and, what was I gonna say? It'll be on the 11th floor, and the number of floors in Fable is actually greater in Reload. This doesn't matter too much, but I did think it was a slightly interesting change. I want to comment on these little changes that aren't too super interesting to go in-depth on as we come across them, but that I feel are worth remarking on nonetheless. Let's see over here. We got this guy's probably another grave beetle. Here's another good example of just tethering the enemy. We can run up the stairs. Now his focus is broken, and we can just walk up and hit him in the back. I suppose while I'm talking on new mechanics, I can actually talk to a battle-relevant one. Something that you'll see on occasion in fights in Persona 3 Portable, FES, and even Reload, because they retain this mechanic, is that occasionally when you do a normal attack, it'll be multi-step, and the character will hit either a second heavier time, or maybe they'll just get a slightly unique animation. Persona 3, FES, Portable, and Reload have this mechanic I like to call heavy strikes, where occasionally when doing an attack, it'll be multiple hits instead of just a one light one. Like there, that's a heavy attack, and it deals more damage. This is essentially like soft critical hits, and I think your critical hit rate might actually influence it. And when these heavy strikes happen, it's not quite as good as a critical hit, but in many cases it can actually make a normal physical strike stronger than a skill, though this is less prominent in Reload, where weapons have generally been nerfed even further. Here we get a revival bead, very nice. But it's kind of a cool and interesting mechanic, and particularly in Vanilla and FES, heavy strikes can actually be a great and fantastic way of dealing damage if you get crit boosting accessories, because you'll be seeing them a lot more often, and their damage, with the right skills and weapons, can actually be better than the HP costing skills. With that gone over, let's go on to the next floor of Fable, floor 10, where 3 shadows are in the central area. It is a new type of enemy. Mitsuru wants us to stay alert, but before we go in, we have another teleporter to checkpoint our progress here, giving us a chance to save before we have to get into the fight. And since we're in Persona 3 Portable, we don't have to worry about any of our party members bailing on us if they happen to be tired. I think this is as good a time as any to use the healing clock. As you can see, for 1,507 yen, we can heal our entire party to full, HP and SP. Relatively cheap. Now, the scaling on the healing clock doesn't exactly stay that cheap for the entire game. It will eventually get to a point where using it will cost a pretty significant chunk of change, but at this point in the game, it costs barely anything to use. 1,500 is nothing relative to what we've gathered at this point, and it's not going to take me too much money finding to, or money gathering to offset that cost. In fact, a single treasure chest can offset it at this point. So, yeah, not at all a tall ask to use that. So we've got a new type of enemy here. Let's switch over to FES real quick and check it out, the fight in that version. Alright, so here we are on floor 10 of Persona 3 FES. 3 shadows in the floor's central area. Once again, you'll be facing a new type of enemy, so stay alert. Fortunately, because I've played this game many times before, I already know what to expect out of this one, and what we need, as mentioned previously, is bash damage, or strike damage, I should say, and the bash skill will facilitate that. As always, you want to activate the teleporter to make sure that you can go back, restore, and also save your game so that you don't have, you know, a rough go of the fight. Fortunately, I was able to get to this floor without anybody succumbing to tiredness, so nobody is leaving, and we are going to be able to enter this fight at full power, which will be nice. It'll be much appreciated. So let's save our progress here, just in case things go awry, because much like the previous fight, in Persona 3 FES on hard mode, this fight can go sideways in a hurry if you happen to miss any of your attacks, and there's not really much we could do about that, aside from leveling up a ton more. One thing you could do, and I'll be honest, I just kind of forgot to do this, is that you can buy an agility band from BBlueV to give yourself 1 extra point of agility, which will give some minor bonuses to your physical accuracy. Later on, we'll have a means to correct any accuracy problems that we may have if we really need to hit something. So that's something I'll definitely pick up later. Another good purchase at this point is a life ring to give yourself a 10% extra HP. At this point, that's not a huge amount. Obviously, we have 112 maximum HP, so what? That only gives us 10 extra HP to work with. 122, 112, not too huge a difference. Will rarely save you from a perilous situation, but think of it like this. For every 10 HP we get, that's another extra hit point on top of it, and can pay off some pretty significant dividends. Thankfully, in Persona 3 FES, more powerful accessories become available much earlier on, which is something we'll go over later. For right now, though, let's go over our boss of the day here. You can win. I'm certain of it.
It must be guarding this area. It's strong, so be careful.
I'll try my best, Mitsuru, though some things are left in the hands of the gods. Speaking of hands, we're dealing with dancing hands here, so I want to think about this. Unfortunately, the random turn order has put the rest of my team after these guys, so what I want to do here is I want to set Yukari to heal and support so that she'll restore my HP whenever I'm using these bash skills, and Junpei, I'm just going to have him target the one who's in the end of the turn order. Fortunately, the way I plan to handle this, we shouldn't be dealing with any more than 1 strike from these guys per turn. What I'm going to do is I'm going to focus on knocking these guys down. As you can see, Aramitama does amazing damage to these guys. So we will knock this guy down. Alright, and regardless of whether or not this guy gets knocked down, the turn has already gone the way I wanted to, so I'm not overly concerned about this. But if he gets knocked down, that's so much the better. There we go. And we're going to cancel this all-out attack. Remember, in Persona 3 on the PS2, enemies need to sacrifice their turn in order to get up from the down status. There is no dizzy status, and they don't get up immediately when down. Remember, this also applies for you. Anyways, let's bash this one at the end of the turn order that I have Junpei targeting. Deal some pretty good damage. You get about like 40% to 50% extra damage when attacking a downed enemy. These guys lose their turns, so they're not too much of a threat. Magaru is pretty unfortunate, actually. Actually, that's very unfortunate. So we're going to get something a little bit interesting here. These dancing hands, their focus is that they do various elemental magics here. There comes Zio. Not a big threat if they target Junpei. Here comes Tantarafu. This panics us, which robs us of our abilities to use skills. Pretty unfortunate that we got hit by that. So let's see. She's going to heal up Junpei. Alright, so now, because we're unable to use skills, I have to think about what I want to do here. Let me think here. We've got Pixie here. Her agility is lower, but she's not weak to anything. So I think what I want to do here... Another option, though. Apsaras. She's not weak to any elements, actually, but I was just thinking maybe I could use Cadenza, but I'm panicked at the moment. So instead, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to err on the side of caution. I'm going to switch to Pixie so I don't have any elemental weakness. I am going to take a bit of an endurance hit here, but that's not a huge deal. And let me see. I'm just thinking about what the smart move to make here. I'm kind of tempted to use my bead chain, but I think I can get away with healing Yukari. And we're just going to see what these guys do and plan our move accordingly. That's perfect! Him targeting Junpei like that. Junpei is going to switch back to just targeting whoever, since I didn't reassign his target. But that's not a huge deal at all. He gets a nice heavy strike there. Yes! Perfect! Okay, beautiful, beautiful. Now, at this point, as long as I hit these guys, and let's hit the one who goes second just to make sure that he doesn't pull any big problems on us. There we go. Whenever you get that critical cut-in animation, you're guaranteed to have hit there. And now let's just bash the other one. Even if he doesn't get knocked down, he's not going to be able to kill us. You might have noticed that when he used Magaru, or the one of them used Magaru, they did not get an extra turn. In Persona 3 Vanilla and FES, when you use multi-targeting skills, in order to get one more, every single target that you hit with a multi-targeting skill either has to be weak to it, or if it's a physical skill, everyone needs to be hit by a crit, which is obviously very unlikely. So, multi-target skills are actually not all that threatening in Persona 3 Vanilla and Persona 3 FES because of that. Obviously, if you happen to miss at any point, even if you're hitting enemies that are all weak to it, that also robs you of the one more. So, something to keep in mind for Persona 3 FES, and honestly mostly works in your benefit. Anyways, these guys are weak enough that the all-out attack will finish them off. One thing to note is that if this was Persona 3 Reload, Junpei would not be able to participate in that all-out attack. In Persona 3 Reload, all status ailments rob you of the ability to participate in all-out attacks, so that's something to keep in mind. That would not work nearly as well as in Reload, but in general, all-out attacks don't work as well as in Reload. I was just talking about that thing about how every 10 hit points you get is another extra hit point, so if we did have a life ring equipped, we'd have gotten up to 122 hit points at this point. Very nice. But that is the boss in Persona 3 FES. Just going a little bit here to say that I'm actually going to try and work my way up to the next floor checkpoint, which is actually a very short distance away from this one in Persona 3 FES and Portable. So when we won't be doing the rest of Tartarus and FES tonight, even though nobody is tired yet, we're going to be pretty close to it because you just don't get that much stamina to work with in the early game. But we have enough that we can easily defeat anything that we come across, even if we end up getting tired. So I think I'm willing to push on and get to the next checkpoint. So yeah, much like the Venus Eagle fight,
It must be guarding this area. It's strong, so be careful.
gotta let Mitsuru say its piece. This fight is not, or actually unlike the Venus Eagle fight, I should say. This fight is actually fairly similar to how it plays out in FES and Vanilla. We use our bashes to take these things down, and thankfully, this is both more accurate than what Yukari does, and it deals better damage. So, if we can get a good flow going here, we can take these guys down a lot more easily. Now, much like FES, these guys will focus on decently powerful magic attacks, so we want to try our best to prevent them from acting and damaging our party. Unfortunately, I can't see which one is going to act first. Another instance of me really disliking how the turn queue view really works in Persona 3 Portable and Reload. Okay, so Yukari's going to get her chance to go. I'm going to use Yukari to heal up the Femsi when her turn comes up, to offset the HP we lost using Bash. One of these guys is downed and dizzied, so we don't have to worry about him going. We only have to deal with two of these guys acting, which is much more reasonable to deal with. And again, like in the Venus Eagle fight, because we're getting a lot more HP... Ooh, that's unfortunate.
This is not good.
So if this guy attacks the Femsi... Ooh, that's rough. Okay, that's manageable, though. That's manageable.
Be careful.
Alright, so what we want to do here is we want to bash this guy down. And hopefully I don't miss.
A wisely chosen attack.
Then we'll bash this guy down over here. It is actually very, very undesirable that Yukari is downed at this point, because she is not going to be able to participate in an all-out attack, meaning that that will be too weak an option to actually deal with these guys. So instead, we want to bash this one that's already dizzied, and then just kill him with Junpei, so that we can... again, only have to deal with a round of two of these guys attacking. Now, I know what you're thinking. That leaves me pretty vulnerable, right? My HP is so low. Well, earlier in the Tartarus trip, we got a bead chain. So what we're going to do here is just use this to fully recover our party. Now, I know some of you in the audience are probably absolutely reeling at me doing this, just using a high-value healing item this early in the game. Come on, I must be crazy. I should save that for when I really need it. Well, I need it right now, and you get tons of these items in Persona 3 Portable and FES, so if you do not use them, you are gonna lose them. We needed it right now, so that's what I did. Alright, so Yukari has been taken out. That's a little unfortunate, and something we just have to deal with in this fight. It's very difficult to get to this fight without somebody getting taken out. Instead of attacking, we're just going to skip on this one, dizzy this one, to rob it of a turn, and now we only have to deal with one dancing hand attacking us. Incidentally, this is also a good opportunity to get Yukari back in with a revival bead, so we'll throw that on her. Hopefully she doesn't get Zeo'd, but it's not a big deal if that does happen. Alright, so that guy uses Dia. He's a team player there. Not that it's going to help him that much. So, looking at this right now, we're not going to be able to take these guys out with an all-out attack because that Dia came in, so instead we're just going to rob this one of his turn, and again, just keep this little flow going, where we're stopping these guys from using their turns. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to use Dia on the Fency, just to err on the side of caution here. And I'm actually going to have Junpei here use that Megiddo gem we got earlier. This deals fixed damage, so it's not going to deal any... Oh, wow! Okay, I probably could have won the fight a lot sooner if I'd used that earlier, okay. But yeah, that deals fixed damage, a fixed 150. Really good luck that I found that. And that ended that fight right there. I could have used that earlier and saved myself a lot of trouble. Just didn't think to, because I'm stupid. But hey, 70 EXP, pretty good in this version, gets us up to level 8, which is going to help out a ton when we get further into Tartarus.
Enemies nearby.
Now in Persona 3 Reload, we have a completely new set of enemies for our floor 11 boss here. Not even just the hands anymore. Now we've got this weird lion wheel and a couple of magic hands. Observe that every few floors you'll encounter a powerful foe blocking your way. These gatekeepers, as we'll call them, aren't going to simply let you pass. You'll need to be prepared for a real fight. Ensure you are ready before engaging a gatekeeper and make use of teleporters if needed. So, I'm actually going to be making use of my first clock heal for this Tartarus excursion that I've been on. Unfortunately, I found myself in a situation where I had to use one of my snuff souls, so this isn't going to be as economical as possible. Don't be afraid to use access points and reload. Much like Portable, floor jump is a thing in this game, so you can just immediately return to the floor that you reached when you return to the entrance of Tartarus. So, we're going to resume from floor 11, and get into our boss fight here. So, let's charge forward with reckless abandon and get into our fight. It's enemy territory up ahead. Are you ready for battle? As ready as I'll ever be, Mitsuru. I'm gonna say that a lot throughout this LP, I can tell.
Alright, let's go!
Move out, squad! Keep your eyes on me! Junpei, your enthusiasm is infectious.
You're up against a difficult opponent, but if the intel is available, I can help you. I can suggest the most effective attack based on the enemy's weakness. But I can only assist like this when we know the enemy's weakness. I'm sorry, but until you can get more information, you'll be on your own.
So, this is the mechanic that I was trying to show off earlier, but I kind of bombed out because I was fighting a new enemy. The assist command. By pressing the right bumper, we can have our navigator assist for us by selecting a attack that is effective against the enemy that we're fighting, assuming that we know what is effective. It works as a shortcut to select one of your attacks that targets an enemy's weakness. Take advantage of this shortcut when the enemy's weakness is known. Anyways, we've got the Barbaric Beast Wheel over here, and these guys are just normal magic hands, so we can take care of them no problem. Let's just blast this guy down. And then blast this guy down. I've gotten a bunch of skill cards, so I've customized Orpheus up a little bit so that he has access to multiple magic skills. Now we're just going to start blasting the Beast Wheel with the different attacks that we have until we find something that works on him. Let's make sure, yeah, Junpei's is up next. Here we go. Okay, he's weak to wind skills. Kind of wish I had tried that, but, you know, here's to the could-have-beens. So let's use an all-out attack here. Like the previous boss fight in Reload, we have the potential to get a dizzy here, which would be nice if it did happen, but it's not critical for it. Anyways, conveniently, Junpei can also strike the weakness here, so we can then pass back around to either Yukari or the main character to hit this guy with Garu again. Since Yukari has the higher magic stat, we'll just have her blast him with Garu. Get that little bit of extra damage there when it matters. Now, like in Portable, sometimes it can be more effective to attack a downed enemy compared to all-out attacking them, because the 50% damage bonus you get from attacking a downed enemy is quite good. But at this point in the game, we really don't have the raw damage that makes that seem that impressive. That bash is pretty terrifying, but nothing we shouldn't be able to handle. In fact, honestly, we can probably blast this guy with Garu and all-out attacks twice, and finish him off before he becomes too much of an issue. Note that if I didn't have the skill cards to give Orpheus Garu, we would easily have, yeah, I think actually it would be better to heal Junpei here. I don't think the all-out attack will finish him off. So let's, instead of going for the all-out attack, we'll just give Junpei a quick heal to top him off. This fight will go on for one turn longer, but we should be fine. So let's go for a bash here. Junpei already having access to more physical attack types in this version of Persona 3. His bash comes through. Unless he gets a crit, that's not really anything that we should be too worried about. Obviously, crits are something that can always happen, but it's not really anything you can account for. But here we get our huge payout of experience. That is incredible, and very good for Orpheus, because it gets him to level 5, learning Tarunda, a very useful buff skill. Love having that at my disposal. We can move on now, but the next floor doesn't look any different. You don't think it'll be the same old thing forever, do you? Well, we can't say for sure.
Precisely.
Right. Part of our objective is to discover what lies ahead. All we can do now is keep moving forward. No point overthinking things now. All we gotta do is keep moving forward. After all, I've already made up my mind. Ooh, look at that, all fired up. What's gotten into you all of a sudden? Oh, nothing, really. Anyway, enough about me. We gotta keep going, right? Come on, let's get a move on.
Every few floors, there's some kind of gatekeeper. They're always stronger and nastier than the last.
Well, seems like after we beat him once, it's adios forever. So we just gotta come out on top.
Nice and simple. I like your attitude, Junpei. Anyway, a new aspect of Persona 3 Reload. I alluded to this on the previous Guardian floor, but we can find these locked chests at each boss floor in Tartarus. However, they require Twilight Fragments to open, like other locked chests, and this one in particular requires 3 Twilight Fragments. That would prevent me from using the healing clock again if I opened it, so obviously I do not want to do that. Fortunately, we will always be able to quickly travel back here to collect those when we do have the Twilight Fragments to spare, so it's no big deal that we can't use it at the moment. Whenever you defeat the boss, you should always head back to the ground floor just to save your progress real quick and not take any major risks. Cutting back here in Persona 3 FES, we've got a rare form. As you can see, it got a little confused on its pathing and just started spinning wildly. We want to wait for it to turn its back, though. We want to kill this thing. As a matter of fact, it's a good idea... Okay, I already had him equipped. Just to make sure you have your strongest persona equipped, your most accurate persona, and Aramitama happens to be both of these things, just due to pure level advantage more than anything. Come on, flip your back. The unfortunate thing about rare forms is that we can't simply bait them. One thing you can do with bows specifically that's a little risky and it sometimes fails, but you can just fire arrows from outside their aggro range and wait for them to walk into you. And that is a way to deal with them. I alerted it. And as you can see, it moves way too fast for me to realistically catch up with it. Even with the increased range of the bow, it takes way too long to fire. and just be out of the way. But as I was saying, another option is to just fire arrows into its path that it's walking towards, and if you time it just right, that can also hit it and trigger the encounter. Remember that rare forms always get the enemy advantage in FES and Portable, regardless of how you hit them, so there is no advantage to striking them from behind. It just means you get a chance to hit them before they bolt. Alright, I have made it to the 14th floor where the next boss awaits. I detect one shadow in this floor's central area. It's relatively strong, so be cautious. So this is how the Tartarus bosses work in Persona 3. You'll either see, this is how they work in FES and Portable anyway. You'll either see 3 relatively strong enemies or 1 very strong enemy. Let's just get a peek at that guy over there. As you can see, pretty big, pretty imposing, and he can actually pretty easily form a brick wall to your progress in this version of the game. So this is a bit of a tough fight, and we're definitely going to want to go into this one prepared. We are definitely nowhere near ready to fight this guy at this point in Persona 3 FES. So we're going to head back to the lobby right now because fatigue is set in for Yukari and Junpei. Junpei actually got tired within 1 fight of me going on to the next floor, so I actually cut it pretty tight for reaching the boss fight with everybody at their full strength. There's a bit of randomness to it, so it's a bit hard to actually accurately predict for that, though I did have enough of a grace to actually get the level ups for Yukari and Junpei that I wanted to get. Do note that as we progress through the game, we'll be allowed more and more fights to engage in up to a certain point when we go to Tartarus, so it's not going to be a consistent thing throughout the game where our party bails on us so quickly. Now, what I want to do is, I've done most of the money farming that I care to do for this month, or rather, up to the next full moon. But it doesn't hurt to do a little bit more item hunting. In particular, I'm hoping for some event floors. I would really like to get Juzumaru in Persona 3 FES, so I'm actually going to be going solo between floors 10 to 14, because we can get some potentially better treasure here, and I would like to get free armor and Juzumaru, if possible. So just going to do that for a little bit, maybe like 15 minutes to a half hour, and see what I get. Speak of what you need, and you may very well get it. On the very first floor that I went to, I got Juzumaru. Now, the reason that I really wanted Juzumaru, well, for one thing, I want it for the same reasons that I wanted it in Persona 3 Portable, but also, in this version of the game, the main character can equip Juzumaru, and that plus 20 HP is an incredible defensive boon, so I'd really love to have this. I'm not going to equip it right now because I kind of want to keep the range of my bow, but that's just a fantastic thing to have for the upcoming boss fight, and as soon as I get an opportunity to leave this floor and save, I'm going to take it, so I make absolutely sure I don't lose out on that. Something kind of funky I want to note on here is, notice how that enemy is distressed by me? Real quick, what if I unequipped our Amitama and instead switched over to the level 3 Apsaris? You'll notice that it's no longer scared of me. This is a kind of a little interesting technique you can use to make solo exploration a little bit safer in Persona 3 FES and Persona 3 Portable. The check to see whether or not enemies are scared of you and will run from you is dependent on your party's average level. So by leaving Yukari and Junpei behind and equipping a high-level persona, a lot of the enemies are so much lower level than my protagonist, or at least they think they are, that they're now scared of me and will actually run away. This is the one time where the protagonist's equipped persona is used for a level-related mechanic. Otherwise, every level-related mechanic uses the persona's or the protagonist's level on its own, but this one does not. It's kind of interesting that way. That camo shirt's a pretty nice get. That's a stronger piece of armor. Let's just take a look at that real quick. Armor has randomized abilities in this game, so... 1 agility. The rash guard we have with its +1 endurance is actually superior to that, because endurance is more valuable in defensive calculations than agility, or defenses, the raw defense of your armor. Alright, after about 12 minutes of just wandering around Tartarus, we've got 40k yen, plus what we can get from selling anything that I choose to sell, mostly just the useless equipment that I don't need, but I plan to hang on to the Juzumaru and the Kishido blade, this to upgrade myself, this to upgrade Junpei. We've also got a camo shirt that we can pass on down to Yukari, so that's pretty nice. One annoying thing about the equip screen in this game is that it also shows your equip stuff in the item list, but it does not actually signify that's something that you have equipped. Other things that I want to remark on is, of course, we want to be in the tired status. That way we'll be able to use Mr. Edogawa's medicine when we return to school on Monday to get additional courage boosts. Additionally, the personae that we want going forward is we want to have Orpheus and Apsaris for Cadenza, obviously. We also need Nekomata coming up soon because we'll need it to keep steady progress on Kenji's social link. We'll also need Aromatama for much the same reason. So make absolutely sure that you have these two kicking around in your stock. Angel and Pixie don't really matter in as much as it's just important that we have them at some point. With all that being said, once we're done with this, we'll wrap up the Dark Hour, and in the next video, we'll be returning to the Bay Area, Tatsumi Port Island, doing our school life, enjoying our social links, and just continuing on until the next time we have to return to Tartarus, which actually will be relatively soon, after we unlock a certain mechanic in FES and Portable. So, as always, I hope you enjoyed watching the video, and I hope to see you in the next one. Until then, though, goodbye.
I don't dispute the doubts you've outlined, but it's my right to waste your time.